Hey.
Hello.
Angela, I don't know if I've ever had been on a live stream with you, so this is kind of fun.
It is. We've done so many live stream preps and plans together over the years, but then I'm either live with someone else or you're live with someone else. So finally, we're live together, which is super
Everything's
cool.
converging. Yeah.
Which is meant to be because originally we still weren't going to be on this one together.
I know,
And
right?
it just magically fell into place.
I know, I love it. Well, I'm Claire. I'm a brand manager at Switcher.
And I'm Angela. I'm the senior manager of customer support. So a lot of you guys watching have probably talked to me or a member of my team for help getting started or, updating your stream or if you have any questions. So happy to put a name to a face for anyone who has not tuned in before.
Yeah, same. And I just so the topic of today is being the star of your own stream. That was something that Angela came up with. I think it's like a really awesome thing to dive into. We'll talk about prep, but also just like how to be more comfortable in your own skin on camera. Something that I have to learn like every time I go live. So
Yeah, this is one of my favorite topics to go over with people, and we have so many people who even will write into support and they say like, I've got my setup ready, but I don't know how to go live, like not physically but mentally, or they say I don't like the way I am on camera, I'm stiff, I'm robotic, or maybe it goes well but they're so nervous and they're like, how do I fix the nerves, when I'm going live? And so I will type up, big long documents for people sometimes, but I'm happy to bring that here because it's one of my favorite topics to do, especially as an extrovert who got started in like the early days of YouTube and stuff and has kind of gone from short form video to long form live
yeah.
streaming. So Claire and I have a few things we're going to go over with you guys. And of course, we've got our moderators in the comments, for if you guys have any questions, and we'll also hit up some of these questions, after we go through our checklist.
Yeah.
Let me pull up the checklist. Um, yeah, we'll start with the first thing we have, which is prep work. And this is so important. And the first thing I tell people is there's not a right or wrong way to do it. Which
So true.
you can subscribe to people online that have like this is how it must be done, but it's really what works for you and what works for your co-host. I've been on some streams both that I've produced personally or I'm on with a co-host, and it's literally someone will email me and say these are 3 topics, let's go. And then there's some where there's hours of research that goes in it, if it's more of an educational product, and there's a really long checklist or basically a script, and it's like
Yeah.
we have to hit these topics and we have to rehearse and plan and everything. And then a lot of times things fall in the middle. What Claire and I did for our prep was like in the middle where we've got some bullet points. We talked about it for like 30 minutes and we were like, okay, let's
Yeah.
go. So think of what your stream is and think of how much
Yeah.
information you need. Can you talk off the cuff? Do you really need topics going? And then kind of plan it from there. You don't want to overthink it, but you don't want to run through your whole list in 2 minutes and be like, well, that's the end of the stream. Bye.
Right. Well, and also like it's kind of what your prep work in other areas of your life is too. Like if you like things super planned out and organized, then maybe you would want to go a little bit more of like a deeper outline. But like Angela said, like you want to leave room for some off the cuff and like things that you think of as you're talking, stories that maybe like occur to you. I mean, it's a conversation usually, if you have, especially if you have 2 people. So you want to like leave room for that. And just another little side tidbit that I think is super helpful that we've kind of figured out as a team, that's a good way to handle things is having a Google Doc or like some kind of shared central place that updates automatically so that you can not just outline everything that you need and like include details, but if you need to talk to someone during the stream, you have that there, and you can chat with them like, hey, don't forget X, Y, and Z. And like they'll see that. And that's like a very easy central place to communicate, or in the chat here in remote guests. That's another like easy way to communicate things. But sometimes having like an outline of everything that you want to make sure that you cover, or if there's really specific points that you want to make, just including that in some kind of outline. So yeah, that's a little peek behind the scenes for us and how we work.
Yeah. And one other thing I highly recommend is, seeing what your rapport is with your co-host and, going from there, especially when you're doing your prep work. And especially if you don't know them well. Like if you don't know them well or don't know them at all, I highly recommend doing, prep over, maybe Google Meets or something, so you can at least kind of get that conversation going. And then also base it on both of your on-screen performances and your rapport with each other. You can be very close to someone, but you don't have that really chatty vibe. So if that's the thing you really need to kind of prep out, let's cover these topics. You might need more topics. You might advertise it's a shorter stream. And I've had cases where it's the opposite, where I'm a chatterbox. Sometimes I know someone really well and they're a chatterbox. And literally we have to put in guidelines on, the script, the outline of, okay, after 5 minutes pass, move to this topic. After 8
Give
minutes
yourself a
pass, you
time
gotta get
limit,
to
kind
that.
of.
Otherwise, it's just gonna keep going and going. So kind of know that about yourselves, know that about each other, and use that to base the length of your stream. And if you need requirements either way on the stream, so that way it comes across more naturally.
Yeah, I think those are all great points. And I think also just something, and maybe it's just how my mind works, but sometimes like mentally, just like the red button, like the go live button is the thing that's really scary. You're like, okay, I think everything is set up right. I feel like I'm, in my space, and I have things where I need them to be. I have like my outline ready, but it's like the pushing of the red button is the really scary part. So like I don't know if you have tips of like what you do to get ready to just like go live, like to hit the button and just
I will say, to make everyone feel better, because pretty much everyone I've ever talked to who's a streamer, even I have some, acquaintances or even friends that are like big time streamers. It's always scary to hit the button. It's
yeah,
a weird thing, because if you're just recording, especially if you're, millennial, you come from the YouTube days where you're going to record maybe a 2-hour thing by yourself and then edit it and it's going to be polished and perfect. You can hit the button and then walk around and sit down and you don't have to worry about it. But no matter really how prepared you are, it's almost like playing a video game, and you know the big scary boss is 2 steps away and you have to make your character walk those 2 steps. It's
yeah,
like that anticipation of, am I actually ready? Do I want to go live now? You can just like shut everything down and pretend you weren't going to do that. So for me, it's almost like, just hyping yourself up in your mind, where I'm like, everything's ready. I've got my lighting ready. I know what the stream is. I have everything I need, whether it's a guest or slides or
right.
name or whatever. I've checked everything out. And to me, I'm like, why wouldn't you go live? It's you're ready to go. And
Yeah, yeah.
if you want to stop early, you can't, just hit the button. And I just kind of talk myself into hitting the button. And sometimes it's like literally 2 seconds. Yes, exactly, Dan. Like we would just stare at each other. It's like, hit the dang button.
Yeah,
and,
yeah.
and then once you hit it, you have that moment of, oh gosh, I just hit the button. Okay, I'm live.
Yeah.
And
Here we
one
go.
thing I highly recommend, and this is why so many live streamers have this. You saw it with ours. Having an opening, whether it's countdown or even just splash screen where there's music and something
Yeah,
playing, that is super, super helpful.
it
When I
is.
have to hit the button and I'm immediately live, it's so jarring because it's okay, did the stream go live like it's supposed to? Is everything running
Right,
correctly? When you have that buffer, you not only have a moment to kind of breathe and psych yourself back into it, but you can see if the audience is saying like, "Hey, I like this funky beat." So you know, okay, the visuals are working. You can see comments coming through,
yeah,
and it gives yourself that moment to be like, "Okay, I'm ready to go," and ease
yes,
your way into it. So I highly recommend a countdown or a splash screen. Yes,
yes,
Eric, the three, two, one.
yeah,
Like absolutely. The other things that help are not rushing it.
yes,
I'm very big on vocal prep. So if you've got a co-host, I love doing it just the way, Hollywood does the big camera interviews. Get either if it's a remote setting like me and Claire, just go into a meeting room, or if you're using Switch or remote guest, it doesn't have to even be talking about what you're going to be streaming about. Just
right,
talk to each other, warm your voices up, get that kind of natural flow going. A lot of times if big time interviewers are interviewing someone, they just, you know, talk about something random. How was your day? What movie have you watched? Just to get everyone kind of loosened up.
right,
If you're going live by yourself, I think this is really pertinent too. And a lot of times I will just talk to myself and pretend someone's in the room listening. Or if like my cat's in the room or something, I'm like,
yeah,
I'm just going to talk to my cat. And as you're setting up, I'm literally saying, okay, let's make sure this is working. Cool, my background's up. Wait, why isn't this light working? Let me go fix the light. And
yeah,
that just gets your voice warmed up that way.
like
And
narrating almost so that
yeah,
you
and
can,
so
like,
that way you're not like first voice of the day
yeah,
really shaky. Like you've got your voice super limber and ready to go. And as you're prepping too, I always put my camera on. It's not recording or streaming, but that way, yay, Greenland. I
yay,
always
hi.
wonder. I always wonder how far we're reaching people.
I know, that's so
But
cool.
that way, if my camera's going, I'm able to make sure like my camera's visually set up the way I want it, that my background looks the way I want.
Right.
I can make sure my
The
webcam's not
sound, like, your
dropping audio.
audio is coming
Yeah, you
across the
can
way
see
you
that
want
the
it.
audio's going through the way it should be.
Yeah,
Um, so that's a really helpful thing for me
yeah,
is narrate to yourself, but have your camera on too.
yeah. I would also say too, like, it's not really a vocal warm up, but at least for me, something that helps is like it's silly, but breathing exercises, like taking really deep breaths and like just kind of counting down and in your head and like doing the sort of yoga breathing, for lack of a better word, where you're like breathing in for 4 seconds, breathing out for 4 seconds, like holding it for 4 seconds. Like it really does kind of calm your nervous system down a little bit. It's like a, I don't know, what do they call those? Like biohack. So that really, like, it sounds cheesy and whatever, but it does work. So I would definitely recommend that too if you get a little anxious before you go live.
Kind of in the same vein, and you can find a lot of these on YouTube. To even just put on your phone for a second, desk yoga. So if it's just a day I'm feeling really groggy or stiff, or maybe I'm sore from a gym workout or something, I'll put on just like a 5 minute desk yoga and just go through that. And
That's such a good
that way
idea.
it's not just your voice,
Yeah.
like your whole body's loosey goosey at that point. You don't do something extreme, just like a general, I'm going to
Yeah.
stretch, I'm going to bend. And that just helps to get you kind of back in the right mindset.
Totally. No, I will have to take that advice because I didn't realize that desk yoga was a thing. So
So
you've given
nice.
me something to look up after this.
I love it, especially if it's a busy day working,
Yeah.
because we do work remotely. So if it's a busy day, I'm guilty of just sitting in my chair for 5 hours straight. And then I'm like, why do I feel so bad?
Yeah.
So just taking that like 5 to 10 minute break and doing desk yoga. So that way you're not completely out of the zone. You can
Yes.
easily hop back in, but you are taking
Oh,
that
hi.
break. No.
So
um,
exciting. I love that we're like reaching at
I
people who are
know.
outside of the US. It's awesome.
Mhm. So nice. So nice.
Yeah,
One thing I also recommend is reducing the chance that things can go wrong. So
totally.
these are simple things of like silencing phone notifications, because as a lot
Right.
of you know, if you're using Switcher and you get a phone call on your main switching device, it's going to freeze up your stream, and that's really bad. So
Right.
putting that on do not disturb is pertinent for anything you're using for Switcher. But even if you have, a phone beside you, so you're getting messages from,
Yeah.
maybe a moderator or something, but still like turn off vibrate so people in your chat aren't like, what is that noise?
Right.
And that nothing strange is going to happen. Um, a lot of people have Discord, so making sure that's muted, because I've watched streams where you're just constantly hearing the bloop, bloop, bloop if you're in a ton
Right.
of chats. And it's one thing if it's just every so often everyone kind of knows what's happening, but if you're in a very active chat, it can get very annoying very fast to a user.
Or yeah, like for example, like Slack or like Microsoft Teams, like if it's a work situation, you're working on your computer, like that's something that you probably want to minimize, or like your emails coming through, that's another thing. Like I would recommend again, one of the reasons we try to centralize all of our communication to like a Google Doc and like just all talk in one space is that we can turn off everything else. And so if there's like an emergency, not that live streaming is ever an emergency, but if there's like a thing that is needs to be adjusted, we know pretty quickly, and it's all in one place, and so you're not distracted and looking around for other things. So but yeah, I mean, and that's the other thing too, like it's a live stream, it's never going to be a crisis situation.
Yeah.
So that's kind of another way you can sort of mentally sort of get out of the nerve space, is like just it's a conversation.
Yeah.
It's okay if things are not perfect, or there's a mistake that gets made, and like yeah, Dan, like laughing at yourself, like that's the only real way to get through some of the things that happen or the mistakes that are made. Like, and everybody does it. So it's not a big deal at all. But yeah.
Hello, Andrew. But yeah,
Hey.
to Dan's point, this is actually something we were going to bring up too. Like, you just got to laugh at yourself and go with the
Yeah.
flow and realize it is live. Like, when on the thing of distraction, it's like I have, depending on whether I'm at my mom's house or my house, she's there, my husband's there. I've got two toddlers, two Australian shepherds, and way too many cats. So there's
Yeah.
a lot of distraction that can happen. But when I'm going to go live,
Yeah.
letting people know like I'm going live until this time, and
Yeah.
that's letting them know like, do not bother me. But if you do, make it funny.
Yes.
Like, so like
Yes.
if like my husband has to come in and ask me something, he'll like go hello stream and like say hi, or he'll pop on camera for a second and tell a joke, like
Yeah.
he's making it fun. Or if a kid
Yeah.
comes in, it's like, now you have to come here and I'm gonna hold you and you have to say hi to the audience. Like,
Right.
you got to make it work.
And I
But
really only have
also,
the one very needy diva dog, but sometimes he likes to make an appearance too. So it's like
yeah.
you just kind of like want to embrace those moments, because like it also is so humanizing, and like
Mhm.
people want to see your life outside of this little square that we're all in. So um
And
yeah.
live streaming is messy. It's supposed to be fun and
Yeah.
raw, and that's why people watch it. There's even for Twitch streamers, you can choose tags. There's even tags for like oh, what's my favorite one? There's one like technical difficulties and stuff like that you can choose. But I encourage you guys, if you still stay nervous about making mistakes, just go on YouTube or Twitch to their live tags and watch big streamers and see how often they make a mistake
Yeah.
or are interrupted or something happens during every stream multiple times where they will just sit there and be like, what was I even doing? Or like all of a sudden there's a cat on the
Yeah.
keyboard. Or they're like, whoops, that didn't go to plan. I've seen big streamers knock over their microphones or not unmute themselves or their lighting dies midstream. Like it happens. And
Yeah.
roll with it and make it fun. Make a joke about it. Like if I mess up, I'm just like, whoops, okay. And
Yeah.
that's part of
Well,
doing your warm up. If you come on really stiff and like
yeah.
this is going to be perfect, then when there's a mistake, it's so glaring. And if
Yeah.
you come on and you're laid back and friendly and fun, even if it's a professional thing, if something happens, just make a quick joke about it
Yeah.
and keep going.
I
If
think
you are not a jokey person, having a co-host is really good because then
yeah.
that person can make the joke and you can go back to what you were doing.
Right. Well, and I think too, like a good rule of thumb is like the bigger deal that you make out of something, it's going to make a bigger deal to everybody else too. So like if you kind of internalize like, oh, it's not really that big of a deal, like then the audience and whoever is watching, your viewers are not going to think that it's that big of a deal either. And so like just kind of keeping that in the back of your head too is a good thing to think of.
And if
um
it's a pretty big mistake and you make it funny or your chat makes it funny.
yeah.
One thing you guys have probably seen on social media, because a lot of people will clip moments of their streams and put
Yes.
those on Reels or TikTok or YouTube Shorts to kind of get more views. They almost always will clip the mistakes. Like those are what gets
Totally.
the attention.
Yeah.
Like people will clip the mistake and that's what they put up from that stream. And then people in the comments engage with it so easily.
Right.
And they're like, did that really just happen? That was hilarious. And then you've got more viewers to your stream. So,
Totally.
capitalize on something like that.
And sometimes it becomes like a running inside joke. Like you can keep pulling that out sometimes. Like,
I have
remember
two
that time that I
friends.
did X, Y, and Z? Or like, this is like da da da. Yeah. I think just making it an opportunity rather than a mistake, I guess, is a good way to go too.
I have two big streamers I watch on Twitch that constantly use the technical difficulties tag just because they mess up so much. And it's just a running joke with their audience. They even have like a splash screen, like we offer at Switcher, to be like, wait, be right back. And there's like elevator music that'll play while
That's
they're fixing
awesome.
whatever happens. And it's the running joke. Like if a stream
Yeah.
goes too well, the chat is like, what is going on? This
Uh,
that you're
it's
supposed
like
to be
their
messing
bit
up.
kind
Like
of
what's
at this
happening?
point. That's funny. I
And
love
and
that.
then another thing I recommend is kind of own what's going on, especially if there's stuff in the background. Like if you get ready to go live and all of a sudden your neighbor starts mowing, that doesn't mean you can't go live anymore. Just go
Right.
live and be like, so my neighbor decided to start mowing their grass 2 minutes ago. So you guys might hear that lovely audio. Or if you do have pets or children,
Right.
make it known that they're in your house. So if people hear laughter or barking or meowing or a bird chirping or whatever, like it just becomes a part of it. It's not the glaring elephant in the room.
Right.
Just
Right.
kind of own it, what's happening. And if something keeps going and it's going to be too distracting, it's okay to end the stream early. If a big storm is rolling in and there's a ton of lightning, if someone's doing construction across the street, it's
Right.
okay to be like, guys, I'm really sorry. I wanted to stream a bit longer, but this is getting really distracting. I'm going to go ahead and wrap up here and then let them know when you'll be live next. Say,
Right.
I'm going to go live again, whether it's later today, tomorrow, next week, and we're going to finish this up. And your audience is fine with that. Like,
Right.
I've never been in a live stream and people are like, no, you have to finish it right now.
Yeah. Yeah. No, and I do think too, like, if for some reason, like, you need something that is so highly polished, no mistakes kind of thing, like you're doing a performance or, it's not like a game or something that needs to be live, um, streaming as live is also an option. We try not to do that too much because it's like we're trying to embrace the mistakes, but um, it is an option. And it's one of those things like, for example, if you have a worship service or something and maybe it's the Christmas worship service or Passover, or something, you need it to be kind of quote unquote perfect. Maybe you want to tape it in director mode or record it and then stream it like 15 minutes later after the service ends. And you can do that too. But yeah.
And I know some platforms do not like in their terms of service when you do that, but all you have to do to make sure your account is safe is in your stream subscription, just mention like, this has been pre-recorded,
Mhm.
and you're good to go. And what some people even will do is they will start the stream and they'll just have themselves as a talking head actually live and say like, hey, welcome to the stream. I'm going to wait a couple minutes, let some more people get in. And then I'm going to show you guys the Christmas worship service. And so that way you are live, you're admitting you're live, and you're admitting you're about to show, a
Yes.
VOD, a video on demand, basically. And then record that. And then once it's over in the stream, and I've seen a lot of people do that, especially if they do, because sometimes you do have to edit stuff in later. And that's a really good way to show it and make sure you're not violating any terms of service.
That's a really good
Um,
point. Yeah.
one other thing I'd recommend really quick, especially because Switcher now has this feature too. It's always good to do like a test recording, even if you're just going to go
Yes.
live. And this lets you really see the audio levels, the networking, really how it looks when you watch it back. So
Mhm.
most streaming providers have this. Switcher has it as of 13.4, which came out a
Yes.
few weeks
Yeah,
ago.
the practice mode.
Practice mode. So
Yeah.
what this is on Switcher, when you go to your outputs tab, you can choose whether it's on broadcasting mode, recording mode. There's one called practice mode. And what this allows you to do is you can pop the stream out into a watchable space, and you can see how it actually looks to a live
Yeah.
viewer. You can also choose to record and watch that back. And what I recommend doing, because I've seen some people do this and they basically run through their entire stream, which can take hours for some people. You don't need to do that. For
Yeah.
practice, really just run through everything. Like give a quick moment of your opening screen and music, talking to the camera for maybe a minute, just kind of narrate like, hey, I'm just testing out my stream. I hope my
Yeah.
audio is working. Pull up some of your lower thirds, pull up any graphics or video, and then be like, okay, bye, and put up your closing shot. And a lot of my practices are about 60 seconds total. And then I'll go and watch them back, and I'm either like, yes, we're good, or
Yeah.
oh gosh, I'm really happy I did that because I need to fix this. And then you tweak it and you go back in and you
Yeah.
practice it again and make sure you're good to go. Um, so definitely if you're a newer streamer, if you're in a new environment, if you get new equipment, I recommend doing that.
Right. That's a
But it's
great
always
point.
good if you have time to do that check
Yeah.
for a second anyway.
Well, and I think to your point too, like maybe not running through your whole
Mhm.
show, because you wanna save some of those moments so that they're authentic and, like leave room for like off the cuff stuff. You don't wanna like
You
give
can make
everything
it
up
rehearse.
front.
Yeah, if you go too far into it, especially if you do it over and over, it just gets rehearsed and
Yeah.
stiff. And you can tell like it's not a joke off the cuff. It's like, oh, she practiced this. You don't
Yeah.
want that to happen. You want the natural stuff to come through.
Right, right. No, I think that's such a good point. Um, well, I don't know, should we take questions maybe?
Yeah.
I know we had one from Instagram, come in before, from I'm probably gonna butcher this, so I so apologize. Borbletondo podcast. So they asked, will we have an improved and more aesthetic YouTube comment interface, please? And so, just like most feature requests, we can't really like promise anything. So, basically, we will give this feedback to our product team. But I love that idea. So, yeah, keep the questions coming. I don't know if anybody had any questions from Facebook or YouTube. Um, let's see. Uh, I'm not seeing anything. Whoops. Mostly just some fun chatter.
Uh,
Oh, one thing, which platforms are best to live stream to first?
for
Um,
We get this a lot, especially people asking if they should just multi-stream to everything. My answer is it kind of depends on what stream you're doing
yeah,
and like what genre of stream is. Like if you're a church, I highly recommend Facebook.
yeah,
That's like the number one place for worship streamers. Put it on Facebook. People want to watch it on Facebook. That's just where people go. If you're doing, sports, a lot of those, they kind of overlap sports, all of the platforms, but I see them be
yeah.
really successful on YouTube because a
Yes.
lot of people don't want to have to make accounts. They want to pull it up on Roku or something and just have it on the big screen for like a party or something. So for sports, I recommend YouTube. If you're doing gaming, highly recommend Twitch. Some people will multi-stream Twitch and YouTube, but it tends to work better to stream to Twitch. And then if you want to put a VOD on
Mhm.
YouTube, I've noticed that's kind of a thing. Um,
And that
yes, Facebook and YouTube,
yeah.
Andrew. YouTube, like I mentioned with sports, it's really
Hey,
great. Hey,
Phil.
Phil. It's really great because you don't have to, do a login or anything.
Yeah, and I would also say too, like, if you haven't live streamed, before, like, you're just getting started, maybe you're starting accounts on Facebook and, YouTube, they do have some requirements, that you may need to meet, like, I think there's a subscriber requirement, is it, like,
Um,
50 subscribers?
YouTube is 100 subscribers, and your account needs to be like your channel needs to be at least 6 months old. And
Yes.
this is new as of last summer,
Mhm,
which
mhm.
surprised a lot of us even at Switcher because we had
Yes.
like testing accounts. Facebook for your pages, you need. I think it has to be at least 60 days old, and you need 100 followers. So a
Okay.
way you can do that if it's like a new page is on your personal account. Just let people know, like, hey, if you can follow this,
Mhm.
whatever audience you're going to be streaming to, if there's already a base there, like a church audience, a school audience, a sports space,
Right.
let them know I'm going to be putting these streams up. But I need to just be open about it. I need to meet my
Right.
100 follower goal before Facebook will let me go live or before
Or
YouTube lets me go live. And that
I
would be
while you're
great.
no, I think that's, like, totally, like, very transparent, point people to ways they can help you grow that following, and in addition, like, we were talking about multi-streaming, you can always multi-stream to a Switcher watch page, so if in the meantime, you still wanna have your live streams, you can actually just use the Switcher watch page, which is, like, its own sort of pop out window and it looks really nice. You can customize it and you can send people there while you're waiting for your other channels to reach where they need like the requirements. And then I would also say like um once like if you're live streaming to your watch page, once you have those live streams, have download them and upload them to YouTube and Facebook as content, or like clips as content, which will also help you grow those channels and hopefully reach more followers. So there's kind of a couple ways that you can do that too. But yeah.
Yeah. And on that note, if you do stream to like, you know, a Switcher watch page, you can also embed, like you can make a collection for it. But you
Right.
can also embed that into your website. So one thing we see people do is they'll say, you know, our worship services are live Sundays at 10:30. You can watch from our homepage or on our Facebook page. So even after you have those permissions, we see a lot of people multi-stream, and that way they live in both places. And by putting the stream in a, you know, in a collection, people can go back and watch that archive just like they could scroll back on your Facebook page too.
No, that's such a great point. Um, and
Thank you.
yeah, thank you so much. It's been really cool to see like a bunch of familiar faces and just so nice to like get to talk to you guys in
Yeah,
real time.
we love it.
And then let's see what else. How many cameras or iPads, iPhones should you use? Um,
I always say, because you can go live with just one with Switcher. I always say two is the good starting place, and that's because you can have your main switching device like beside you,
mhm,
and
mhm.
so you're not trying to toggle and use that as a camera. So you can have another iPad or an iPhone set up as, you know, the camera on you or the camera on your congregation or on the sports team, and then you can control it in your hands. The only thing is, and not to get into the weeds, we can help you set this up if you need to. Remember, the audio for Switcher is the main device. So if you do
Yes.
do that, you don't want to have the camera out in the field, and then you've got the iPad with you, and you don't have anything else set up, because then the audio is going to be just you, you know, in
Yeah.
the background.
Yeah.
So you want to
Breathing
make sure
maybe.
you want to make sure you have a mic set up or something, and we can help you out with that if you need to. Just write to support@switcherstudio.com. But
Oh,
from
wow. What
there,
a
I always
team.
tell people, yes, a lot of our users have a lot of
Yeah.
devices. I always say use as many as you need. A
Yeah.
lot of people get started and they see you can have 9 simultaneous, and they hook up 9 immediately, and it's for, you know, a worship service that has 50 people in it, and then they're struggling with all these devices, and we have to tell them you really don't need that many.
Yeah.
It's nice to have angles, but work up to it. Like I tell people, if you have a really good stream with 2 or 3 and you want another angle, then add 4, then add 5.
Right.
So
Right.
it's just getting more complex. It's a step up and not a giant change. So
That's
again,
such a good
I
point.
recommend 2, 3 is nice. For a lot of our users, they stick to 2 or 3, but we do have many users who will use up to 9. We have some who, you know, just like Phil mentioned, they might have up to 15, we've seen, and they're adding and dropping during the stream. But that's a very advanced
Advance.
thing.
Well, and I would also say too, I think we may have a blog post or a guide that is really specific to sports camera angle setup. So, like, if you want examples of like where to put your cameras, or like how to use them, and then I think we also have one for worship. But just thinking about what's going to make it the most dynamic. So, like, typically there's like a close-up shot and a wide shot, and maybe even a shot of like the audience. I find that's kind of can be like sometimes even more interesting, to get a view of like fans or even like the congregation, absorbing some of, you know, the sermon or the music. So all of those things are fun things to capture, and just thinking about the things that make the in-person version of whatever you're doing fun and interesting and dynamic can help you sort of figure out what you need to get a camera angle on.
Yeah.
um, yeah.
And I mentioned earlier you might have like in-home distractions and stuff. One thing I've seen people put an extra camera on is like if you have a dog bed or a cat tree, or maybe outside there's a bird's nest. I've seen people do animal cam, and it's just like a bonus. And they
Yeah,
might
that's
do
so
picture
fun.
in picture and put it in the corner, or just every now and then they swap to it, and they're like, "Look, the mama bird's back in the nest, everyone!" And that's one thing that becomes like a part of your stream too.
Oh, I love
And
that.
it doesn't have to be like, I know a lot of people will hear that and they think of like more of the fun services, but I've even seen sports events and worship services that do that. If there's something happening right outside the church, maybe they have a really pretty fountain or something, you have a fountain cam, and then that's something you can switch to while you're
Yeah.
live. So as you get more comfortable with your streams, start thinking outside the box and thinking, what can I add? And that's just something that people will enjoy, and it makes your streams more you and diverse.
Yeah.
So that's another thing I recommend.
I love that. I think maybe there's one more question, and then we've gone pretty long, I think. So probably call it a day after that. But I guess just again, like related to being the star of your own stream and that kind of thing, like uh, how do you make remote guests feel more comfortable?
For me, it kind of goes back to the prep we mentioned, like really getting, at least on a base level, a rapport with someone, and
Yeah,
getting that conversation with them. You never want the first time you talk to someone to be you're already live, and you guys
right.
just have to figure it out right then and there. So for a remote guest setting, bringing in, your guests beforehand, maybe doing the prep work in remote guest.
Hmm.
If you're going to have multiple people, because of course you can have up to 6 guests on at once, making sure all of them have a chance to get in. And that way you're checking audio levels, seeing who's more familiar, who are maybe the one or two who are going to talk the most. If there's someone that's more quiet, really focusing on like, hey, I want you to handle this topic. So that
Yeah,
way everyone has a moment to shine, basically. And then really doing it in advance so that you can make sure their setup is what you need. Like with remote guests, you can do webcams, you can do iPhones, you can do so many different devices. So
yeah,
sometimes you have to tell someone like, do you have a different device you can use? This is really pixelated, or I can barely see you. Do you have a brighter room you can go to? Or if you're
right.
doing this a few days in advance, that gives you time to be like, like clip on webcam lights you can get on Amazon for $6 overnight shipping. Like, can you grab one of these? Or if they're still local, but you're going to do remote guests, like, hey, I have one. Let me run this out to you so that we can brighten up your display.
Right.
If they're in a noisy room, they have time to find a different corner of another room that they can use. So really doing stuff in advance helps with remote guests.
Yeah.
Getting that rapport going, getting a checklist going of what you want to cover. And then before going live, like I said, instead of you doing your own vocal warm up and that's it, bringing them in 30 minutes before and talking stream, but also just talking live. Like Claire and I had a great, just random conversation for like
Yeah.
20 minutes before we went live, just kind of catching up about things.
Yeah.
And so that helps where then you segment into live and you're already in a good mood with that person.
Right.
You're ready to go. So highly recommend that. And take it as a conversation, don't
Yeah.
think of it as I'm in my own bubble. and she's in her own bubble. Talk like you're just talking to a friend, and in the back of your mind, remember, like, oh, there are people watching this, but you're still having that conversation with someone.
Oh, yeah, those are all great things to keep in mind and really good advice. And I guess, I mean, this may be where we end it for today, but feel free to always like comment and reach out to our support team if you have more questions. If we didn't get to answer something, apologies. We sometimes it's hard to keep track of everything. So definitely make sure you reach out to us. And thank you guys for tuning in. It was so awesome to see everybody and get a chance to like say hello to some friends and some new people. So thank you guys.
We love doing this with you guys. And
Yeah.
as Claire mentioned, if you guys have any questions, reach out to support, because we have people who will say, I've had this issue for months and I didn't want to bug you guys, or I just wrote in last week, I don't want to write in every week. We have people where we're like, oh, it's you again, and that's
Yeah.
completely fine. And if there is, whether it's definitely a problem, but even if you just have a question of, is this possible, write to us and we'll either say yes or not quite, here's how you can do it, or we'll see if there's something we can do to make it happen. But definitely write in whenever you need to. You'll probably talk to Jamie and Candace the most, but you'll also get a chance to chat with me,
Yeah.
Jordan, Tim. We love talking to you guys. You guys
Yeah.
are the hardest switcher.
And speaking of, thank you to Jamie and Dan. I know you all have been in the comments, and also Katie for producing today. So
Thank you.
it's definitely a team effort. We always love to hear from you, and we do. We're like, oh, that's so and so. Yay! We're excited to see their content or see their note or whatever. So definitely never hesitate to talk to us. We love to hear from you. But yeah, I hope you all have a good rest of your Thursday, and we'll catch you on the next office hours.
See you guys later.
Bye.